Welcome to Sanctified Rebellion Radio. I'm your host, Mike, coming at you live once again from the dungeon, my basement studio / office, and this is part 2 of today's podcast titled Changes. If you want to know what those changes were that I'm speaking of, please see podcast part 1, and you will get all of the information that you need. Alright guys, you know how this goes. Once again, I'm a dude doing this from my basement office, so interruptions may occur. I'm a family man. Alright, first part of the podcast, I talked about some changes that were going down with the show. I also made mention that I have a YouTube channel where I'm vlogging my life called Sanctified Rebellion. That's those two words put into one long word. Sanctified capitalized, Rebellion capitalized. Just the S and the R. Go check it out. Make sure you favorite, like, subscribe, watch it, enjoy it, hate it, love it, whatever. I go over why I'm doing that on part 1 as well. So if you want to know my reasoning for that, go check it out. All right. Not going to waste any time. We are going to jump into some really cool crap. There's a lot of good stuff popping in television news right now, but probably nothing as big as the fact that the freaking Walking Dead is coming back this Sunday. I'm so excited about it, I can barely stand myself. I freaking love The Walking Dead. Love the comic book, love the show, and I appreciate even the differences between the two. It's well written on both accounts, and I think that a large portion of the success of the show has to do with, a lot of the faithfulness they do have toward this source material, but also I believe that a lot of the success comes from the involvement of none other than Robert Kirkman. So I feel like the show's doing well. I like what they're doing, and I think it's all owed to the genius that is Robert Kirkman. He's a fantastic writer. He does awesome work with the comics, so in my eyes, the man can do no wrong, at least not yet. Well, there was an interview that was done this week by Scott Gimple. I think that's how you say his name, Gimple. He's like the senior writer on The Walking Dead, and he did an interview with Entertainment Weekly, and this interview got me psyched the crap up for what's going down this season. There's a lot of cool stuff. I'm going to read some excerpts from the interview, and then we'll talk about some stuff. There is a lot of changes coming to the show, and I think these are good changes. Some are it's going to take some fans a little bit of getting used to, but one of the things that's changed is the structure and the tone of the show. Okay, Scott Gimple said in the interview, structurally, things will be very different. I think the tone is actually varied in that variety, it's very different. There are some bright, sweet moments, and there are, shock upon shock, some smiles. That is definitely not something we're used to seeing on The Walking Dead. So, there's also some of the darkest material we've ever written as well. I find that hard to believe because they have really covered some dark crap in the past, especially in the past season here that they've had, season 4, with the little storyline about the governor and how he was like walking toward redemption, it seemed like, there for a minute, and then all of a sudden he reverts to his ways and becomes even more psychotic than he was before. Like when he was trying to help the little girl and her mom, and he was all sweet on the mom, and they had the lesbian daughter, and that was just a really weird family dynamic, but it worked for the show. And it seemed almost like you wanted to root for this guy. Then he starts knocking off people, and I don't know, it was just crazy. The stuff that they did there was very dark, like how he saved that little girl when she fell in the pit. And the walkers were coming after her, and he killed that one with his bare hands, and then he killed his friend from Woodbury and dumped him in the hole, and it's just like, the guy's nuts. And to think that they're going darker, I just don't know how that's going to be possible. But he went on to say structurally, that's a tough word to say. something that we get from this is beginning, middle, and ends. He called them 8 little movies. So even though there is like kind of like an overarching theme that ties all the episodes together in one story, each episode of the 8 remaining ones of the season are going to be like little movies. So they'll have a beginning, a middle, and an end. And he says, thus, because we're telling all these different stories, not one story cut into 8, there's a lot of different variety. So they're also apparently going to start off, at the end of the last part of the season, the first part of the season, the governor basically overran the prison and destroyed everything. So now the survivors and Rick's group are basically back to nil. I mean, they were building this community. They were reestablishing order and kind of starting to have a little bit of normalcy to their lives. And they looked bright, like there was hope. And then the governor destroyed all that. So now they no longer have walls. They no longer have safety and security. They're on their own. So I thought, this is an interesting dynamic. So now the story's going to pick up. Everybody's scattered, and they're in little pockets of survivors instead of one large group. And some of them are even off on their own, I guess, from the way it sounds from this interview. We'll find out for sure on Sunday. And so they're going to be telling each of these different stories, and they may not necessarily be interconnected. It's going to be interesting. And he said that his inspiration from that was the comic book. The comic book is very, very good. So knowing that they are trying to pull inspiration from the source material still is a good sign that this is going to continue to grow in its artistic expression and be something that really connects with fans of the comic book as well as people who aren't familiar with that material. He had some interesting things to say about the death of Herschel and what kind of impact that's going to have on everyone who was there in Rick's group. And a lot of it has to do with Rick's philosophy. We've seen a lot of changes in Rick's philosophy since the first season. How he views the world. His whole worldview is just been torn to shreds. Excuse me. There was, this is what he went on to say. There was Herschel. He said there's 3 major deaths in that episode, the mid-season finale. There was Herschel, the governor, and also the prison. So he likens the prison to an actual character itself. Herschel in many ways represented what the prison was, which was civilization. Rick's final philosophy on the prison was taking people in, which is very humanistic. They were growing their own food. They were growing their own community. They were having hope for the future. Herschel's death really symbolized the end of that. There's this practical reality. We do not have fences or walls. But there's also a philosophical reality. We don't have civilization for the future or humanism. Stripping these characters of every piece of safety they have, including each other, that was the point of it. It's boiling down to an even baser survival. It's getting real with their situation in the world. Forget what had happened to the world. It came for them. These characters will be at their most vulnerable. I find that to be very, very interesting. That's what I love about this show. It's not really just about the zombies and the gore. That's just kind of the fictional setting that it's in. It's got that horror element that just really draws you in. But the show really, at its core, is about human nature and about how do we survive and just how dark are we on the inside. What are we willing to do to survive? How far down the rabbit hole are we really willing to go? It is, at its essence, a look, an exploration of fallen human nature, of the imperfections inherent in human nature, about the darkness that kind of lurks in all of us. And I think that right there is what's going to enable them to take the material in an even darker direction than it's been before, because they have finally stripped away that last bit of safety and comfort, which was the prison. That sense of normalcy, a sense of recreating civilization is now gone. And I think this time it's going to hit home that we will never, ever again have what we once had. Right now, it's basically we just got to survive day to day. No more trying to rebuild the world. We just have to survive today. And so what are people going to do in order to make survival happen? It's going to be very, very interesting to see what directions that goes in. I'm super, super excited to see the work that's going to come out of that. I find that very, very interesting. Now, Scott Gimple said that there's going to be a lot of answers to a lot of questions that the mid-season finale left fans with, and that a lot of those answers are going to happen sooner rather than later, meaning they're going to happen early in these last 8 episodes, not toward the end. One of those things that's really kind of upsetting, but it's accurate to the source material, is the death of baby Judith. At the end of the mid-season finale, we see an empty car seat full of blood. And, obviously the logical conclusion, the deduction, if you will, that is made from that is that walkers got a hold of the baby and ate her. It's sick, it's disgusting, but that's what the implication is. Now, in the comic book, I don't remember if the baby's name was Judith or not, but the baby and Lori got shot by accident. The bullet went through Lori, and then it went through the baby. Spoilers, if you haven't read the comic book, I'm sorry. I just really effed that up for you. Pardon my French. I don't care. I really messed that up for you. Sorry. Read it anyway. It's still good. So this is still sticking pretty close to the source material in that the baby did die. I mean, how does one have a baby in this type of world? I mean, the baby makes noise. It's going to draw walkers, and you can't just make a baby shut up and stop crying. It's very impractical. I mean, it's like from the moment the baby was born, it was doomed. But what he says is, I'm going to start with the not awesome thing. Judith was a baby in a place with free roaming walkers, so the math isn't very good there. On top of that, there's things we wouldn't show on television. So there's that. But the awesome thing is that the answers to a lot of these questions come sooner rather than later. These answers will come quite quickly. So I'm gathering that all the evidence in that statement is pretty clear that baby Judith did not survive. Wow. Good grief. You get used to hearing that sound a lot when you have children. If you can't handle some crying, it's just not going to be good. Okay, I'm going to try to move forward despite that. That was some of the most interesting parts of the interview. He says a lot of stuff in here. But they're also going to be introducing some new characters. I have not kept up with the last year or so. It's just been sporadic with the comic book. But Abraham is apparently a character from the comic book who's a huge fan favorite. He's going to be coming into play in the season, and a lot of fans seem to be happy about that. I don't know, like I said, I'm not familiar with those characters that much because like I said, have been sporadically keeping up with the comic book. And he also says that we will find out what the crap was going on with the zombies being fed rats at the gate. We're going to find out who did that, but that answer doesn't come at the beginning of this little spiel here at the beginning, but more toward the end. Spiel? I don't know if that was the right word to use there. Oh, well. Any more aftermath on Rick's decision to exile Carol? That is a good question. They are going to explore that more in depth, and it's going to be a big part of the character stories, so that's going to be awesome to see. It looks like the last 8 episodes of this season are going to be utterly fantastic, and I am super duper excited for it. I think that this show once again is going to show the world why it's the number one show when it's on, and bottom line, the show gets better and better every season. Minus the ending to season 3. The season as a whole was great. The finale, not so much. But they have more than made up for it this year. So, I mean, one bad episode out of however many there's been, 4 seasons almost now, I'd say that's pretty good. So looking forward to that being done and seeing that on Sunday. I usually watch the show with my dad, so it's a lot of fun. That's something we get to watch together, and we get to hang out. And I love spending time with my parents and seeing my dad, and he really gets into the show. So it's cool, It's really awesome. It's a good time. I also wanted to talk about Michael J. Fox's show being canceled. Apparently, Michael J. Fox's new sitcom on NBC was canceled due to low ratings. He only had about 1 million viewers per week or something like that. I mean, it was pretty darn low. He was part of the new NBC Thursday night lineup, which is not doing so well at all. NBC has struggled a lot within the last few years to really have that Thursday spot be as strong as what it used to be in the 90s. So I don't know what they're going to try to do to replace it. Only 15 episodes out of the 22 that were shot were actually shown on the air. So who knows what's going to become of the rest of them. They haven't decided what's going to happen there. I mean, they ordered the full 22. They've already been filmed and shot. So I don't know. You'd think that they would just let it go ahead and run its course. But I don't know how television and advertising and stuff like that works, since that's where they get their revenue. I guess if there's not enough people watching, not enough people are seeing the advertisements, and it's not worth it for the advertisers or the network. So it just sucks, because I really like Michael J. Fox. I grew up watching Back to the Future and Teen Wolf and stuff like that, and it's kind of depressing to see that he was trying to make a comeback and trying to do something cool, and I don't know, with his Parkinson's, I thought it would be interesting to see how he works that into the television show. I didn't get a chance to watch it. But it's still sad that he's not going to be able to fill that spot that he used to have back in the 80s with Family Ties. That he was on NBC with that show as well, which was very well done. It's a pretty cool show. I grew up watching that. So I don't know. He's been one of my favorite actors for a long time. Just sucks, man. Sometimes it just sucks. Maybe the show just didn't have anything that really captivated people. Michael J. Fox is kind of an older name who's been out of, culture for some time now as far as relevancy. Maybe he needs to spend some time kind of working his way back into culture and supporting roles, and then maybe take a show over. I don't know. Who knows, man? That's just sad, though. Sorry to hear that, Michael J. Fox. Just keep on trucking, brother. Lastly, before I start wrapping things up, I want to talk about the Duck Dynasty ratings fluctuation. I first off want to say I'm a huge fan of the show and of the family values it represents. I love the Robertsons. I've read their books. A lot of liberals and people give them flack, like, oh, the show's scripted, blah, blah, blah. Some of the situations in the show obviously are scripted, but I'll be honest with you, their attitude is 100% authentic, and I think that's awesome. I think that it is fantastic to see Christians have such a large influence in popular culture without necessarily ramming it down somebody's throat. I think that they're genuinely entertaining. I enjoy watching the show. Cy keeps me laughing all the time because dude is just nuts. And I love how close-knit they are as a family. And I think that the reason this show works and it's so popular is because people are so sick and freaking tired of seeing shows about dysfunctional families. Oh, it's more realistic. Maybe so, but not every family is dysfunctional. Not every family has these crazy freaking problems like these TV shows make them seem like they do. I mean, no family is perfect, but my goodness. I think people just need to be refreshed. I think it's just, time to get rid of the same old, and add a little variety in there, And Duck Dynasty appeals to a market, an audience that has been widely neglected by Hollywood. And I think that Duck Dynasty is the first show to really come along and fill that gap, and to do so in a way that's entertaining enough that even people who aren't aren't Christians and have a Christian worldview can still enjoy it. It's just good, clean show that you can watch with your kids. So I just think that the mass appeal of the personalities of the family, combined with their unique story of how they became wealthy, it all ties in together to make something that's very, very unique and appeals to a market, the Christian market or family-oriented entertainment market, that's just been neglected lately. I mean, shows like The Walking Dead, Dexter, Breaking Bad, these are the most popular shows on television, and they're all very, very dark. Well, I should say Dexter was. He's not anymore. Ever since the lumberjack thing. Spoiler, if you haven't seen the last season of Dexter, spoiler. I need to start saying that before I say something. I know that. Why can't I remember it? All right, just a little Tommy boy there for you. Anyway, their ratings have been fluctuating for some time now, and all these liberals want to slam the Robertsons because of the incident with Phil talking about homosexuality. Look, the man has a right to his views. The man has a right to express his views. If you don't like that, you don't have to stay in America. We all have the First Amendment free speech. We can share our views all we want, even if they're views that you don't like, even if we say them a little harshly, even if we say them in a way that just seems rude. So, we have the right to do that and to share that, and so does Phil. I don't think that this rating fluctuation has anything to do with that. I just think it has to do with the natural ebb and flow of popular culture. Things change. But even though the ratings have been up and down and sometimes dipping pretty low, they've still been one of the top-rated shows on television. They're not going anywhere. They still managed to pull off a pretty high ranking this past Wednesday with their episode that aired. So I don't foresee the show going anywhere for at least another season or two. I mean, there's only so much you can do with a reality show. You can only keep it going so long. And they do basically 2 seasons a year. You eventually are going to run out of things that are interesting. So, for all you Duck Dynasty fans, don't get worried by the hype from the liberal media telling you that all Duck Dynasty's days are done and blah, blah, blah. Don't buy into it too much. I don't think it's going anywhere. And even if it does, who cares? You can watch the old episodes. You can still support the Robertsons and Duck Commander, their company. It's not a big deal. I bet they'll probably find a way to make YouTube videos, or they'll continue making the Duckmen movies. I mean, it's just, don't worry about it. It'll be all right. It'll be all right. I see a lot of fans getting twisted up over these articles, so just don't. Don't give the liberal media, a foothold into your life like that and let them frustrate you. It's just not worth it. All right, guys. That's all I got to talk about for today. It is time to get rolling and enjoy this weekend. Before I start heading out, I wanted to mention that I have a Twitter account. You can follow me, do a search for me on Twitter at capital S, capital R, Rebel. So it's SREBEL 1983. S Rebel 1983. You can go ahead and follow me on Twitter. We can chit-chat a little bit. And you can check me out again on YouTube, my vlogs of my daily exciting life, at capital S Sanctified, capital R Rebellion, 2 words put together. No spaces, no underscores, no any of that junk. So follow me on Twitter at SRebel1983, at YouTube at Sanctified Rebellion. Look for the first political podcast to come out on Monday. Things are changing. They're good changes. I look forward to everything. Hope you all have a great, great weekend, and I am out of here.